Lafaux est commandant de la 2e division du Canada.
Reverend Tin, Mayor Dupuis, Councillor Francard, and members of the Tambal-San community. My name is Lieutenant Colonel John Lipchuk. I'm the commanding officer of the Royal Canadian Hussars in Montreal. Je suis ici représentant Général Lafaux, le commandant de la 2e division du Canada, qui malheureusement voulait être ici mais ne pouvait pas à cause qu'il est à l'extérieur du pays. Let me begin by saying what a tremendous honor it is to be with you on this extremely special day for the unveiling of this beautiful, beautiful statue of the Buddha of Compassion, Avalokiteshvara. Je sais comment c'est important pour vous, la Bouddha de compassion, car beaucoup parmi vous ont voyagé de votre pays en grand péril, vous avez prié et elle vous a gardé saine et sauve. I know how important the Buddha of Compassion is to many of you who crossed the sea under very perilous circumstances. You prayed to her and she kept you safe. Now we in the Canadian Forces are happy to be with you today. We're happy to be with you today just as we were happy to be with you when we first met, back in the days when you left your land in search of a better life here in Canada. Maintenant, je sais que beaucoup parmi vous, vous connaissez déjà l'histoire parce que vous l'avez vécu vous-même. A lot of you know the story yourselves because you lived it yourselves. But for the benefit of the children and the grandchildren, and maybe some of you who went to other countries first, like the United States or Australia, please allow me to tell the story of how the Canadian Forces became involved in your lives and why for us being here is so important. We all remember that after the fall of Saigon in 1975, it was a very dangerous time where hundreds of thousands of Indo-Chinese, primarily Vietnamese, Laotians and Kampucheans, had to flee their land under very, very difficult circumstances. The result was a refugee crisis that touched the hearts of the world, and Canada was no exception. The government of Joe Clark asked the Canadian Forces to help, and the prayers, your prayers to the Buddha of Compassion were answered as the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces came to save you, came to bring 70,000 of you to safety in Canada. Vos prières, vos prières à la Bouddha de compassion, elle vous a entendu car elle a envoyé les hommes et les femmes des forces armées canadiennes pour aller vous chercher, puis amener 70 000 de vous pour vivre au Canada en paix. So with the missions, Magnet 1, Magnet 2, and Magnet 3, almost 70,000 of you were brought to Canada. Certains parmi vous sont venus aux bases des forces canadiennes à Edmonton, but most of you went to Long Point. Canadian Forces based Long Point in Montreal, where you were received, you were helped, you received medical attention, you met people from 2nd Field Ambulance in Petawawa, 5 Field Ambulance from Valcartier, medical staff from CFP Saint-Jean and Canadian Forces based Montreal. 32 000 parmi vous sont venus aux bases des forces canadiennes à Long Point et vous avez été hébergés et accueillis par les membres des forces armées canadiennes. Ils vous ont donné des soins médicaux, des vêtements, ils vous ont lavé et nourri et vous ont aidé, comme vous méritiez. Perhaps we could say that the Buddha of Compassion worked through their hands. Peut-être on pourrait dire que la Bouddha de compassion a travaillé avec leurs mains, les mains des hommes et les femmes des forces armées canadiennes. Then it came time for the settlement. And the government... Instead of having the government do everything, why not ask individuals? Au lieu de demander au gouvernement de tout faire, pourquoi pas demander aux individus d'aider les gens en péril? So Canadians were asked under the private sponsorship of refugee program, and they responded in droves. Tens upon thousands of Canadians came forward through their synagogues, their churches, their social clubs, their unions. People banded together on the same street to come together and sponsor families and oftentimes give a home. Des dizaines de milliers de Canadiens se sont réunis avec leurs syndicats, leurs églises, leurs synagogues, leurs groupes, même des personnes qui habitaient sur la même rue, pour accueillir des gens et souvent offrir des maisons. 35 000 des réfugiés ont été accueillis par des citoyens normaux au Canada. Now, I can say that I empathize with you. I didn't live anything as hard as you, but when I was 15 years old, I had to leave home, a violent home, with nothing. J'étais forcé à quitter la maison à 15 ans, une maison violente, et j'ai quitté avec rien. Et j'ai prié à Dieu. Et les prières, my prayers were answered. I received the help of both strangers and friends. I joined the Canadian Army at 18 years old, but between 15 and 18 I had to live somewhere. And a single mother, an Irish mother of 3, took me in and she gave me a home. So I understand what it's like to be taken in by somebody else. Years later, after I joined the Army, I returned to this woman. Après plusieurs années, je suis retourné à cette famille qui m'a hébergé. And I said, Mrs. Donovan, what can I do to repay you? Qu'est-ce que je peux faire pour vous, pour repayer pour ce que vous avez fait pour moi? And her answer was this: John, be a good man and help somebody else. Ça répond. Après certaines années, je suis retourné et j'ai demandé, Madame Donovan, qu'est-ce que je peux faire pour vous repayer? Et sa réponse était, John, sois une bonne personne et aidez les autres. Alors, the boot of compassion never leaves anyone behind. La compassion prend soin de tous les êtres et ne laisse personne dans l'affliction qui prie son nom. And that is what you have done. You've looked out for each other. You've taken care of each other. You left no one behind. You have built together. And what better example than what you've built in this beautiful statue? Congratulations on what you've built. So in closing, let me congratulate you on how far you've come. Permettez-moi à vous féliciter de tout ce que vous avez fait. You came with very little and you've built so much. You have raised families, built businesses, and become integral members of Canadian society, now numbering almost 250,000 people. You have gone on to lead tremendously productive lives. You have integrated so well and become leaders in your community. Vous êtes intégrés et vous êtes maintenant des leaders de votre communauté. And I'd like to give you an example. Corporal Nguyen, please. Corporal Nguyen is a leader in my regiment. He came over at 10 years old from Vietnam.
Hello, xin chào. Tôi được tới đây cũng như là cảm ơn tới quý vị mời chúng tôi đến đây và xin cảm ơn cái bức tượng này thật là đẹp. Xin cảm ơn.
Thank you. So finally, let me say this. As Mrs. Donovan said to me, John, be a good man and help other people. In that same spirit, I ask you to look upon this statue and be inspired by it and continue to allow the Buddha of compassion to answer the prayers of others through your hands. Thank you.
Merci, colonel. Maintenant, c'est le discours du représentant du maire.